Welcome guys to my round 1 wrap up as well as the round 2 preview, and it is rage trade season. It always starts after round 1 where everyone is pissed off about all the players that they picked that didn't turn out as great as what they thought they would, and they dump them pretty quickly after one game. And I am not going to be, I say it every year, I'm not going to be one of those players, and I'm going to make some changes. I don't care. I originally thought I was going to make no changes and then kind of ride it out. Some of my disappointing picks could wait another week, but then I thought, you know what, there is some real value out there still. A few players in the bubble who have now played those couple of games and could very much quickly be out of reach, and I'd rather just jump on board on some of these guys than hope that these underperforming players come good. And I'll explain why. I'm also going to go into some players that I think that should be on all of our watch lists. That's for next week, because for me, there are players already at their bubble. Because of the round 0 game, and the round 0 round, there are already players at their bubble, so we can make moves early and just kind of sit around on some others. And I'm going to go into all of that this week, on this week's episode. I'm also going to go into what kind of worked for me and what didn't. And I'm going to start in my back line. Nick Dacos and Harry Sheezel, big thumbs up. They were fantastic. You know, how good of those picks were. I'm outside of words. I don't know how to describe how good they were, because 135 and 130 were just incredible. And from your D1 and D2, you can't ask for too much more. If you don't have these guys, I would say they're probably in your backline. They're probably your 2 most important players to be searching for. The roles are there. We know what these guys can do. Sheezel actually looks better than last year, which is amazing. So I'm loving those 2 picks personally. Jaden Short didn't perform on Thursday as I would have liked. He scored an 88, which is not terrible, and he came off a 130-odd game in round 1, so he's averaging 109. Look, the guy's BE is still pretty low, so if you've been one of the few players that have started Jaden Short, because he's not in many sides, he's definitely a POD. His break-even's 87. And he's actually gone over 100 against Port every game in his last 3 games. Look at that, 116, 103, 102. His roles there, he actually looked shithouse. He looked really shithouse for the first half of last week. And he ends up finishing on an 88. That's much better than what I thought he was going to finish on. So really, I honestly think there is a real upside in Short's game. I'm not too worried at all from my D3. The other one is Hayden Young. Now, this is someone that I want to touch on. Scored a 70 and looked very ordinary throughout most of that game. But he finished on a 70, and I'm surprised he got that. I'm really surprised he got that. Now, Freo, one alarm bell that we have is Freo, they have a lot of defensive injuries, and it could mean that Young could go back to defense. I hope he doesn't, because he looks really good in the midfield. He actually got a lot of the footy. He just turned it over a lot. He got a lot of clangers. He got a lot of ineffective kicks, a lot of handballs that didn't really make it. And I think he got 23 disposals, so he didn't look too bad, but he just didn't do much with it. And if you look at the trend, the players that did that a lot, so the North Melbournes, Zach Fisher, for example, or Nick Martin, or Hayden Young, or Libba, these are guys that are really good users of the footy who didn't use the footy well this week. And it really took a toll on our scores. I think it's because they're a little bit rusty without the round 0 game. And this is their first real hit out for a couple of weeks. And I think they were just a little bit rusty. Hayden Young is a good user. The role is still there. He did get a lot of the footy. He uses that ball a little bit better, and that's easily a 100+ game. So I'm not phased. He's not on the bubble yet, so you can hold him for a week and see how he goes. he's got a relatively good opponent coming up as well in North Melbourne. So I think if he doesn't score 100 against North, bail. That's it. Done. Out. Don't think twice. Next week, just kick him out. But he should score 100. And I still think he's a 105 average player. Currently priced at about I think what's he priced at? 90 odd? What's he priced at? I don't know what he's priced at. He's priced at a 90-odd score. I think he's got value. I think the value's still there. Keep an eye on him. He will get DDP as well, so that means you'll be able to rotate him through your midfield. I don't know why you'd want to, but you'll be able to do it as the season progresses. It might be pretty good when it comes to buys and like really filling in those positions. I think that the value is still there for Young. I said that, he was one of the guys that I've been eyeing off since about November last year as a real breakout year. For those guys that read my article on nerdsforlife.com, I honestly think that he is still in the window for a breakout season. The DDP is going to be great. He's got the best buy for the mid-season buy, and he's got no early buy as well. The value's there. Hold on to him one more week. I'm pretty sure... Yeah, there's already about 1,700 people that have dumped him. I think those guys are going to regret it. Hold on to him for one more week. He's not at his price change bubble yet. Now, I forgot to mention at the start of the video, please make sure to subscribe on either you're watching it on YouTube, or if you're watching it on TikTok or on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Spotify, all of those things. Make sure to subscribe, like, and comment as well if you disagree with anything that I say. I'd love to hear from you, and you get to keep up to date with all of my updates. Now, the other one I want to talk about is Blake Howson. I'm pretty happy with him. He scored a 64 after coming off a 91 against Sydney. He's on the bubble, and his break even is a negative 86. His projected score is only a 44, and he's probably going to go higher than that. He's going to make 60 to 70k easy this week. He is a must-have. If you have faded him for whatever reason, and you do not have him for this week, he is definitely should be number one on your rookie priority list in defense. If you don't have him, and you've got Gibcus like I did, and Gibcus has done his knee. He's out for the season. It's horrible. It's sad to see. He's going to be great for Supercoach next year, but it's sad to see that he's done. And you don't have Howes, get Howes. Don't waste your time on Marty Hoare. Marty Hoare looked good, but he's not in his bubble. He's not in his bubble this week. He's only played one game, right? Wait on Marty Hoare. Wait on him. Get Howes. Now, Caulfield is someone that I didn't start with. I've actually brought him in, and I'll explain why I brought him in later. Zach Williams didn't score amazing, but he actually started the week great. If you actually look at his score, he had a 47 up until half-time, and then he just did nothing in the second half. And he kind of did something similar in the week before that as well. I think that he's just going to have to build into his match fitness a little bit. The scores will come. Remember, he didn't really have a pre-season in the sense that he didn't have a lot of those match simulation hit-outs until very late. So, just hold on to him. He's got a bye this week, so he's not going to change. His break-even's still -4, so he's still going to make us money, and he should still score relatively well. Carlton are using him. It's just that he's not getting a crap load of the footy late in games, and that's affecting his scoring. I'm not too worried about him. I was a little bit annoyed with his score, but oh well, shit happens. I had probably one of the worst starts to the season that I've ever had in Supercoach last week. I still scored over 2,000, which I thought that I wasn't going to do because I got basically most of my picks wrong and everyone played average, but I still hit the 2,000 mark. It's not that bad of a score. I saw a few other podcasters do worse than me, so I'm kind of glad in that sense. I think I don't want to point people out, but guys like some of the Dr. Supercoach teams actually did worse than me somehow, and I take that as a compliment that I did better than a couple of those guys, because those guys are elite Supercoach podcasters, and the fact that I did better than any of them in a round that I did horrible at, I am pretty happy with. Zach Reed, look, he got injured. He was subbed out in the first quarter. I'm not too fussed because, yes, he does have a hamstring strain and he's probably going to be out for at least a couple of weeks. but he's probably going to come back into the side when he is fit and available. And he's my D8. I'm not fussed. I'm really not phased. He's not on my priority list to move on. Bontempelli played well. He scored 126. I was happy with. Butters did well. He did well, but probably not captain material. But he did well. Matt Rowell. Oh my God! For those who did not listen to me from November all the way to the season opener, Matt Rowell. I feel sorry for you guys. Honestly, I know that Miller is cheaper, but Rowell is at the moment. He's got 6 Brownlow votes. There is no way he doesn't have 6 Brownlow votes up until this point in time of the season. He has been phenomenal in his opening 2 games, and he is now going to go up against the Western Bulldogs, who do not tag. Last year, he scored 159 against them. I can't see that form dropping. Honestly, incredible player. You probably missed your opportunity to pick him up because he has the round 3 bye. So he plays this week and then he rests for a week, and you don't want to. I wouldn't be bringing in any Gold Coast or GWS premiums this week, as they have the round 3 bye. So if you've missed Rowell, you're just going to have to pick him up later in the season. It's like me for Miller. I'm fully aware that guys like Miller, Tom Green, Flanders, these are guys that I wish that I started, but I couldn't because they've all got the same bye. I'm just going to have to suck it up and get these guys later. I think Tom Green is in the same boat as Rowell, an amazing player that probably should be in our teams by the end of the season. But if you haven't started him, don't bother yet. Just don't. Yeah, he might have a really good week against. He might. I think. Who do they play? GWS play West Coast. I think he'll probably be close to best on ground against the Eagles, and he's going to score 150. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't. But you're only going to bring him in for that one game, and then he misses a week. I don't know. For me, I just don't see the point. Just wait for the one price rise. You know what? He's 30 grand more expensive. So be it. And if you really want him, bring him in the following week. Now, I also want to touch on Nick Martin. Nick Martin disappointed a lot of people. He disappointed me. There's already 5,000 people that have dumped him. And I think that's a little bit crazy. There's no price change this week for Nick Martin. That was his first game. He actually got a lot of the ball. He just didn't use it well, which is very unlike Nick Martin. The role is there. He's still got that half-back role, and he should still get DDP based on what he did on the weekend. And again, that's that, the rotation the rotation between the back line and the midfield is going to become really important when it comes to your buys in the mid-year. He doesn't have an early buy as well. He's pretty cheap still. That round 1 game is going to roll off his round 3 rolling average very quickly. Keep him for one more week and let's see how he does, because I can easily see him turning up this week. Max Holmes. Max Holmes is someone that I'm thrilled with. One of those other guys like Rowell and Young that I thought would have that breakout season. Scored 112. He's got the half-back roll as well. I'm very happy with that. Looks good. Looks very good. If you haven't started Holmes, you've still got the opportunity to jump on him. I don't see him as a top priority. I think there are other players that are probably more of a priority. But if you've got everything nailed and you're thinking, what moves can I make? Holmes is someone that you could definitely jump on. And, you could probably wait a week because, again, there's no price change. He doesn't have the round 0 buys as well. Keep an eye out on him still. I'm very happy with him. He's one of the players that I was really happy that I picked. He scored 112. He's got St Kilda this week, is it? No, he's got Adelaide this week, who he scored 102 against last year. I think he could have he should score another 100 plus. The role is there. Harley Reid did well. I'm happy with him. He's playing midfield. The scores are going to be there. I could see him legitimately averaging around the 70 mark this season. And he's going to make you money. McKercher, incredible. If you haven't started McKercher, he is someone that you need to jump on. Fisher, and I'm calling this the Rage Trade episode because Fisher is out of my team. I hated it. Hated watching him on the weekend. North Melbourne were using Fisher, and he was just not kicking the ball anywhere near his teammates. And then they started using McKercher, and they realised that he was actually able to use the footy by foot. And I think they're going to continue that trend. McKercher looked amazing, scored an 88, and he's going to keep scoring well, I think. The role is there. Use McKercher. Now, Matt Roberts is another one that I think is a must-have. If you haven't got him, do get him. He's got Essendon, Richmond, West Coast, GWS, Gold Coast, and Hawthorn coming up. He's got that half-back role. I actually think that he's probably scored unders thus far. He's going to make a serious amount of money for us. He's negative 58 BE. He's got a projected score of 48. I could see him scoring another 68, 70 plus score, which means that projected cash rise of 50k is probably going to be around that 70k mark. He's going to make us a lot of money very quickly, and his averages are very good for an on-field start. So do seriously consider him if you haven't already got him. Sanders, I was surprised with. He was subbed out. Now, remember, this was his first game, so the role's there. Just keep an eye on him. I'm not phased. Clark was terrible. He actually had a point per disposal. He got 13 disposals. Played across the wing. Looked good in the sense that he was able to find the footy. Just looked shit whenever he tried to do anything with it. I don't see him doing that every week. I don't see him being a Chesser 2.0. Don't worry. I think that he will come good, and he's not on his bubble. So for the guys the 3,587 people that have already traded him away, I think you're jumping the gun a little bit. He's not going to have a price change yet. And there's a lot of other rookies that are on his price mark that are also not going to have price changes. So guys like Sharp, who I didn't start, who I talked about all preseason, and I just couldn't fit him in my final team. I just thought Clark was better, and I've obviously made that mistake because Sharp looked amazing. And if Clark doesn't do well this week, my next week is I'm probably only going to make one trade next week, and that's literally Clark to Sharp. If Sharp does well again and Clark does not. But again, these are one of those guys that you could just hold on to. You don't need to make that move now. I'm sure you've got bigger fish to fry. Mana, look, he was the sub. I kept him in the side purely because I was at a Bucks night. I had a few drinks, and I was not in a state where I can make a great decision on who to pick outside of Mana. So I just left him in my team because I thought, you know what? I'm just going to leave him in my team. Who cares? Just I'll suck it up. He actually did alright. He did better than Clark, and he played way less time than Clark. Mana has DDP. He looked really good when he went on the field. There's going to be games where he's not the sub, and you watch. I could see him scoring some big numbers when that happens. I'm happy to just roll with him as my, M11 at the moment, and just rotate him from M11 to, F8 and be totally fine with those scores for now, because he's still going to probably make you money. His break-even's 15. He'll most likely make cash. That 20... See, if he's not the sub next week, because he looked really good when he came out, and if he's not the sub next week and he scores 60 to 70, that 29 is going to jump out of his rolling average very quickly. Now, one guy I want to talk about is Kieran Briggs. Now, I VC'd him. I hyped him up. I was ready to go. I was so excited about Kieran Briggs. POD, only 2% of teams owned him, and he scores a fucking 57 against Tristan Cherry. Why did he score the 57 is what I found as the most surprising. Now, I'm just sorry. I just need to have a drink of water. Oh man, I've crapped on this a lot. Now, Kieran Briggs, I'm still not fussed with. That 57 is going to jump out of his rolling average pretty quickly. He scored 100 plus against Collingwood, and now he gets to go up against Bailey Williams for West Coast, who probably doesn't make most VFL teams. He is very easy to score against for opposition ruckman. Kieran Briggs did not play very much against North Melbourne. Tristan Cherry is actually a very hard opponent to play against. Ruckmen don't score well against Tristan Cherry. Kieran Briggs actually had more hitouts than Cherry, by the way, but he spent 69% of the game on the field. Most of the time he spent on the bench. He actually had the 4th or 5th lowest time on ground, Kieran Briggs, because he got a knock by Cherry very early in the game. He's never played against West Coast, and I just can't see him going sub-100 against Bailey Williams. I really can't. I can honestly see this guy still averaging around 110, 112 for the season. And I've seen a lot of other podcasters. I'm just going to name drop Dr. Supercoach. I've name dropped. I think the guys from the Supercoach co-captains mentioned it too. I really see Briggs being a guy that could go 110 and be a super POD. And against West Coast, if he goes 150 plus, that's going to really help my score. And I'm just going to hold on to him one more week. And you know what? If he doesn't do well, so be it. I can easily dump him for a Cherry, who's actually looking pretty good. Brodie Grundy. What to do with Brodie Grundy? Hold him. He's averaging 105. And he's on his bubble. His break-even's 57. Hold him. He's going to make you money. That's it. Grundy actually made that 71, not because he played bad, but because he gave away 7 free kicks. You get rid of those 7 free kicks, he was in line for a 100-plus game. Okay? He had a tough opponent, an opponent that he doesn't tend to score well against in Darcy Cameron, because Darcy Cameron knows how to play against this guy. He trained under him. His next opponent is Essendon. Look at his record against Essendon. 128, 129, 153. Okay? Then he's got Richmond, who he typically doesn't score great against, and that's because Nankervis is actually a hard player to score against. And yes, I see that 140-point game against Richmond in 2021, but I think that may have been on Soldo, not on Nankervis. And then you got to look at, or it might have been on even Samson Ryan. I don't know. Anyway, I don't think it was on Nankervis. And then you've got West Coast after that. Just hold on to him. Don't get rid of Brodie Grundy. That'll be a mistake. For me, Brodie Grundy was always a stepping stone. I don't see him as a keeper. I could see him making a lot of money, and by his buy in round 6, I could potentially see moving him on to a Tim English, who I actually want in my side. So don't even worry about him. Livingston's my loop. I brought in Heeney, and I'll explain why a little bit later on. Rankin, I still see the plus side there. He kicked 2 goals on the weekend. He got CBAs. He actually had only 3 CBAs less than Dawson. That's fantastic for me. The role is seriously there. He goes up forward. He kicks goals. He plays in the midfield, he gets the ball, and he's a great user. I still see the POD with the value there. His break-even 76. He's still going to make me money. He doesn't have the buy. He actually looks good. He's got a decent record against Geelong. He's got a really good record against Melbourne and then Freo. I'm kind of okay. I'm kind of happy with holding him. And again, the POD's there. Nat 5 was incredible. If you don't have Nat 5, seriously, you have to get Nat 5. Scored 100. That's it. Just get Nat 5. Yeah, you've got another week you could probably wait on. He doesn't have an early buy. His bubble's not until next week, so you can chill on him and just see how he does. But he does play against North, and look at that record. It is juicy. Yeah, I might, honestly, if you don't have Nat 5, I'd get Nat 5. James Jordan, fantastic. 82 average, I'm happy with him. Sexton, he's averaging a little less than what I expected, but for his price, you got to have him. Cadman as well, I'm very happy with. He's actually getting ruck time. And the thing that's bothering me, he's taking ruck CBAs from Briggs, and it's actually elevating his score a little bit. He looks okay, and he's got West Coast this week. I can see a jump in his scoring as a result, and I'm probably going to field him because of that. I'm bringing in Tom Berry, and again, I'm going to go into that a little bit later on as to why I'm bringing in Thomas Berry. Wilson, I'm actually happy with. He's got DDP, I'm very happy with. Now, I'm going to talk now a little bit about guys that I'm fading, but who you should probably look into. Now, these are the guys that a lot of people are talking about trading in. And if you haven't already got Jesse Hogan, for example, don't worry about him. You've missed the boat. I mean, I know he's probably going to go 100 plus again against West Coast. I know that Jesse Hogan's BE is negative 46, and he's going to make a shitload of money, and he can quickly make you 100k. But he's got to buy next week. Also, there are rookies that are 300k cheaper than him that can also make you 100k very quickly. Yes, they don't have the on-field score, but I just see value elsewhere. If you didn't start him, you've missed out, and that is just my honest opinion on him. Jack Billings, he's on the bubble. I understand that 11 that he scored after being sub in round 1 is going to quickly be removed from his round 3 average. It's going to drop off straight away. He's on his bubble. He's already got a low BE of 5, and I could see him making 150, 200k very easily. I'm personally not picking him because I just can't fit him in, and I've got other players that I'm looking at ahead of him. I really do like him, and I really wish I started him, and I wish that I could get him in my side, but I think there's better value in Heeney, and I'd rather get Heeney than get Jack Billings, but I totally understand the pick. I think if I could get Billings, I 100% would jump on him, but I just can't. And you know what? I still think he's going to be good value at, let's just say he jumps up 30k this week. I still think he's going to be good value at 270k. So if you don't get him in your side this week, I think that he'll be alright for the following week. Massimino Ambrosio, I understand the pick. He looked really good. He's got a really low BE of negative 37, but 30,000 people bringing him in before his bubble is ridiculous. He could get injured next week. He could score a 40 as well. He could be done in the first quarter. Why are you bringing him in before his bubble is beyond me. Stupid. Wait another week. It's best 18. It's honestly best 18. Don't bring him in this week. Yeah, he's on my watch list for next week. Don't get me wrong. He goes 100 plus again. I'm probably going to have to bring him in myself. But what are you doing? 31,000 people almost are bringing him in before his bubble. Honestly, I hope he doesn't, but what happens if he does get injured? And then what? You're holding on to him for who knows how long without him making you money, and you've paid 225k for him. Nah, stupid decision. Really, really stupid decision. I get, you know what, he can score 100 this week. I still think it's a dumb decision purely because of the risk. There are other guys that are on their bubble that can make you a lot of money, that look good still, that you should probably be prioritizing over a guy that isn't going to guarantee you that price rise yet. And that's guys like Howes, who if you haven't started Howes, is definitely someone. Now, I get it. If you nailed all of your picks, if you were the guy that won the 1K because you had the best score of the round, right, and you could fit Ambrosio. Actually, he had Ambrosio. If you were one of the guys that had a really amazing score, and your only issue is Gibcus, and you want to trade up to Ambrosio, fine, I can accept that. But I doubt that 31,000 people are in that boat, and I honestly think that is a risk that I cannot justify. I seriously cannot justify it. For me, here's a wait till next week. Now, my moves for the week. I have decided. Now, I was thinking about Zach Fisher and potentially holding him for another week. He had the role. I mean, he got 21 disposals. He just did absolutely shit all with it. The role's still there, but honestly, Isaac Heeney is 483k with a negative 12 BE. He plays Essendon, Richmond, and West Coast in his next 3 games. Sydney still have a lot of midfield injuries. In Adams, Mills isn't coming back anytime soon. You got Parker. He looks great in the midfield. 144 and 136 he's looking fantastic. He's genuinely looking fantastic. And you know what? Even if he goes forward a little bit, he's got easy opponents, so he should kick goals. I just got to bring him in. He's going to still make you money. Even if he scores a 90, he still makes you well over 50k. Because his projected score is 90. So he's going to make you about 50k regardless. I could see him making 100k even if he starts scoring 90s, which I don't think he's going to do with his next few opponents. And that's the thing. If you've got guys like Jordan, Grundy and Roberts in your team and they've got very easy opponents coming up, I can see these guys making a crap load of cash well before their round 6 bye, and then you can offload them in round 6 if you need to. You can't obviously offload all of them in round 6, but you can offload 3 of them in round 6 very easily if you really wanted to do that. So, I don't know. For me, I think that Heeney is the number one player that I am eyeing off, and he was a guy that I needed to get in my team, and I have moved heaven and earth to get in, and it's in the wake of Zach Fisher, who, for me, honestly, I know that he scored a 50, and you know what, he's probably going to score 100 this week. After I've made this decision, he's going to score 100 this week, but his kicking is pretty average, and it's actually historically been kind of average. He's going to get a lot of the ball, but if his kicking is average, which, again, historically it has been, he's just going to keep scoring okay scores. And I just see a greater upside in Heeney than what I do in Fisher anyway. So, for me, I'm totally fine with this, and I'm just going to accept it. Lazaro's a guy that I never wanted, and he was a guy that I brought in for Hustwaite after Hustwaite was not named. And I brought him in because Windsor had a bye. It was either between him and Windsor, and I thought, look, I've got too many bye players, so I brought in Lazaro. He pumps out a 42. I actually hated him throughout the preseason. I never understood why so many people were keeping him. Yeah, he's got a good role in the sense that he's getting CBAs, but he's never historically scored well, and he didn't really score well in the preseason either in that role. I just don't see it. I just really don't see it. Gibcus you have to get rid of. Unfortunately, he's done his ACL. That's it. We'll look at him again in 2025. It's really sad news, but we have to get rid of him. Unfortunately, he does need to leave. Caulfield, I'm bringing him in before his bubble. The only player that I'm considering on his bubble instead of Caulfield is what's his name? Dean? I don't see the job security there, honestly. I understand why you would bring him in because he's guaranteed to have that price rise, but I just don't see the job security there. I see job security in Caulfield. The Western Bulldogs brought him in for a reason. He only scored a 49. Remember, this is his first AFL game in, well over 2 years? I can only see him getting better from this point. I mean, yes, there's the injury risk, and if he gets injured, I'm just going to have to suck it up, I suppose, but it's best 18 for the next few weeks anyway, so I could probably ride that and be okay with it. I'm bringing him in. That one's a risk. I never wanted to bring in a rookie that wasn't on his bubble, and I think that was my rule for going into this year. So, look, I'm still tossing up between Dean and Caulfield. I'm probably going to go with Dean for that reason alone, even though I don't think the job security's there. But Caulfield I see with more upside, so I haven't really made a decision on that. I guess I'm going to wait for teams to be announced, and let's see how we go. I'll make a decision on that. This will be the only time that I bring in a player this season that is not in his bubble, and the only reason being is because it's round 2 and I need to bring someone in. And that's usually a normal thing for round 2 anyway, so I'm not phased. This will be the one time that I would consider doing it. Thomas Berry. Now, I think the Dr. Supercoach guys talked a lot about Thomas Berry this week, and I was kind of hoping he'd be a POT bring in, and then they decided to talk about it, and they've got a few more followers than I do, just a couple, And because of that, I'm sure a lot of people have their eyes on him. Now, he actually scored a 62 from 6 disposals against Richmond, which is unsustainable. But then proceeded to score 104 against Adelaide, which brings his BE to negative 75 with a projected score of 52. Even if he bangs out that 52, he's still going to, make us 58k, which is great. He's on his bubble. It's fantastic. I'm happy with that. But the thing is, he's listed as a forward, but he's not really playing forward. He's actually playing a weird kind of role where he's playing a high half forward where he's actually rotating and moving into the defence, as well as getting the ball around the midfield as well. He's got a lot, he's scoring a lot from pressure acts, he's tackling, a lot of contested footy. He looks good. And Damien Hardwick has basically said his position's locked in, unless he plays really, really bad. I think the job security is there for Thomas Berry. And what is it now? This is his 6th AFL season. I really see there being upside. The Dogs don't have... the Dogs have a decent defence, but not an incredible defence. I just see Berry just scoring well. His next few opponents, he's got GWS, Hawthorn, Sydney, West Coast. The only 3 out of the next 5 opponents, 2.5 of the next 5 opponents are kind of tough. Again, this is a guy that I'd be putting on my bench. I would not be playing this guy on my field. I would not be playing him on my field. But for cash generation on your bench, the role's actually decent. The role's decent. And again, you're not looking for these scores. And he's on his bubble. So for me, I'm really happy to bring him in. And I honestly think that my team looks so much better with that cash generation here, because I think that he's going to be making a lot more money than Lazaro, personally. Even if Lazaro's job security is a little bit better, I just don't see there being 100 score in Lazaro's rotating average ever. I just don't see it. I really just don't. And I kind of made that decision for Lazaro last minute, and I regretted it the second that I put him in my team. And obviously Gipkus needs to leave, and really, obviously Heeney's the guy that I think has the most plus side that I could get for Fisher. I honestly think Fisher's a bail. I think you bail on Fisher. You either hold him for a week and see how he does. Maybe he scores 100 or 90, and yeah, that's awesome, but I don't know. I think there's more warning signs than there are positives, and if you could turn Fisher into a Billings or into a Heeney like I have, just do it. Just fucking do it, honestly, because I see more plus side in those 2 picks than what I see in Fisher anyway, and I think that's the way you need to go. Now, they're the guys that I'm looking at. They're the guys I'm happy with. Let's see how we go. I think I've covered everything that I really wanted to cover. Now, for captain and vice captain, let's take a look and see the fixture. For me, I think personally, you can't go past round. Where is it? You can't go past Thursday night St Kilda versus Collingwood. You just can't. If you're not putting the VC on Nick Dacos, you don't have Nick Dacos. And you should get Nick Dacos. Yes, St Kilda typically do tag, but I think when Hager's still got his broken hand, I can honestly see Nick Dacos going 130 plus again. And if he does, awesome. The VC should be on him. If you get it wrong, we have a lot of captain options as the round moves on. I also really don't mind a Jack Steele as a sneaky VC here. Adelaide versus Geelong. I don't like anyone from Adelaide purely because of how many options there are in Adelaide's midfield. At the moment, you've got 4 main guys rotating through there in Laird, Dawson. Dawson looked kind of average last week. Crouch and Rankin. Because of that, Laird has been touted to move more forward. I don't really like anyone from Adelaide from this game. I'd be kind of staying clear from it. I think there are better options than the day before. Geelong, I don't really like anyone from Geelong for a VC here at all. North Melbourne versus Freo, if you really want to wait for that, because maybe you've got no options on Thursday, Friday, I don't hate putting a VC on Serong at all. Incredible player. I didn't talk much about Serong. I know a lot of people are jumping the gun early and bringing him in. He was amazing last week, and yes, I love him. But as well, he's got the best buy, mid-season buy, and he's got no early buy as well. But you could wait a week. He's not going to have a price rise. And then usually players, after they score 170, we saw it from Anderson, they kind of go a little cold for a couple of weeks after that because teams try to shut that down from happening again. I don't think North have that capability, but he will get a little bit more attention than he did last week. And look, if you've got Serong, I would definitely put a VC on Serong. Actually, to be honest, I'd be putting a VC on Serong ahead of Dacos if you've got the ability to do it. I don't like it on Brayshaw. He played too much on the wing for me. Though against North Melbourne, I don't think it really matters. Hawthorn versus North Melbourne, I don't really like anyone from this game personally. I mean, keep an eye out on Clary. I think he's going to dump a lot of money soon, and he's definitely going to be an option closer to mid-year. I don't really like Petrarca for this game either. I think Viney's actually in pretty good form. Melbourne have a decent midfield at the moment. No one's really screaming out to me. Sydney versus Essendon. If you're getting to 7:30 p.m. on a Saturday for a VC, something's wrong with your team, and you've got other issues. You've got a lot of issues to fix. But hypothetically, if this is the game that you're looking at for a VC, the only player, and I mean the only player that I am thinking about for this game is Isaac Heeney. You're not picking anyone for your VC for Sunday. You're not. But I really like Matt Rowell in this game. Had a huge monster game against them last year when he scored 150 plus. He is probably the most in-form midfielder in the competition right now. Narrowly ahead of Tom Green in my eyes at the moment. I'd be backing that. But then also you've got Bontempelli. So if you want a sneaky POD captain and see how you go, Matt Rowell. If you just want the generic captain because your VC just bombed earlier in the round, Bontempelli. But there are much better options on the Sunday. Way better options than both those players. And it's the guy that I'm probably going to pick as captain if my VC does bomb, and that is Zach Butters. Zach Butters' record against Richmond is ridiculous. I would say Zach Butters is definitely the way to go. If you started Ollie Wines, he's a great pick for against Richmond, but definitely not captain material. I don't mind Rosie as well. I've seen some people with Rosie around. I wouldn't be picking anyone from Richmond. I'd just be picking just Port Adelaide players to have amazing games. For me, the best captain option for me is Zach Butters on the Sunday. And then, but if you don't have Zach Butters and you've got Tom Green, for example, he's probably the second best choice for captains for the week. I would say against West Coast, who are narrowly better than most VFL teams. So they'd be basically the VCs and Cs for me. So number one VC in my eyes is Nick Dacos, just to wrap things up. Number two is Serong on the Saturday, if you've got the opportunity to do it. Best two captains are Butters and Tom Green. And if you really want a POD captain, Matt Rowell. If you really want to just take that weird sort of route, just because, maybe you've had some shitty performances in the round and you want to get above your league matchup, Matt Rowell, just chuck the captaincy on him and let's see how you go. I'm not opposed to it. It's risky, but let's see how you go. And that's me for the week. Thanks, guys, for listening. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe on our TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, just to make sure you don't miss out on all this amazing content. Or if you're listening to this on Spotify as well, thank you. And I'll be back same time, same place next week. Thanks, guys.